All right, it is January 7th. Welcome to the Backdraft Weekly Hangout. We're going to do a quick rundown through our agenda this week, but we have so many fantastic things that have been happening recently that I'll try to not linger on the things that are less important. Um, so just to start off with general announcements, if you want a Backdraft t-shirt or hoodie, if you make a donation to the Backdraft Foundation on our website at backdraftcms.org/contribute, we'll mail them off to you. We've had 2 orders recently, and both of them were sent out last week. So thank you guys for supporting Backdraft, and I hope you enjoy your warm, adorable clothing. We don't have any PHP Storm licenses. We have new licenses from the PHP Storm folks that should last an entire year. If you're interested in having one, you need to be a member of the Backdraft Contributed Developer Community, which means you have to join the Backdraft Contrib group on GitHub. There's an application for process for that, just to make sure you guys understand how code is managed at Backdraft being slightly different than how it was managed at Drupal. That's where you're coming from. If you aren't creating code but still want to join the community and want to contribute and want to volunteer to maintain modules, themes, or layouts, that's a good way to get involved. I know I've got a couple too many projects that I'm currently maintainer on. I'd love to have co-maintainers. So if you're interested in stepping up and helping with that issue queue review process, that's a great way to get involved without having to create any code yourself. So you can send us an email, info@backdraftcms.org. If you're interested in one of those licenses, we can help get you through the GitHub contributor approval process. It's pretty straightforward, and get you that copy of PHP Storm. We have no updates from the Project Management Committee this week, so I'm going to turn it over to Nate for lots of updates on our community growth.
Thanks. Yeah, boy, there's so many things this week. This is going to be crazy. Okay, so community growth. So we have 187 total projects available for Backdrop CMS in the Backdrop Contrib group. That's 2 new projects since last meeting. 116 projects with official releases on backdropcms.org. That's 1 new since last meeting. 153 total releases, so 2 new releases since last meeting, and 43 total members of the Backdrop Contrib group. We don't have any new Contrib authors since last week, but we have 3 applications that are all going to be done pretty much immediately, I think. So there's Gifad, who did an amazing job on a bunch of modules. He did 4 or 5 or 6 geo-related modules: GeoField, GeoCoder, Geo everything. And so that will be really exciting to see those come over in the near future. Dan Boulay, who has ported the unsubscribe module, he's also been really active in the core queue, doing lots of amazing stuff there. And Dyrer, who is also in this meeting. Evangelist, hey, welcome. Glad to see you, and welcome to our meetings. And so we're really excited to have those new Contrib authors. If you're interested in joining the Contrib group, you can do so at github.com/backdrop-ops/contrib. And that's where we go through the process of taking a look at any modules that you've written or ported for Backdrop CMS. We review them, and then if they meet basic criteria, then we grant you access to the Contrib group, and then you can port and add and contribute to modules, all that you like within that group. And being in that group has some advantages, like Jen mentioned. We can get you a license to PHP Storm if you're in the group. But it's also the only way right now for modules to end up on backdropcms.org, that when you publish a module within the Backdrop Contrib group, it automatically synchronizes over to backdropcms.org once you've made an official release of that project on GitHub. So really exciting, lots of great progress moving along in the Contrib world, as well as the core space, and we're really excited to welcome our new contributors and to see more in the future. Let's see, Jen had a new item in here. Last week 6 days ago, we enabled the ability to register and sign up for accounts on backdropcms.org. There's not a whole lot you can do yet. You can just sign in and update your profile, basically. But we're hoping to expand that to more functionality, integrating it with GitHub, and making it so that people can actually manage things like news posts, the projects that they manage, all of those sorts of things. So we'll be looking into expanding that functionality on backdropcms.org. But for now, you can go and register an account, and there have been 24 registrations since that was opened on the 1st of January, and that's really exciting to see new members coming in. It's also interesting to see that it's not a one-to-one overlap between our contrib and core developers. You got a bunch of kind of lurkers, I guess, that they've clearly been around, but they haven't been participating in development directly. But we're really excited to see them. Okay, let's go right into infrastructure. Infrastructure, we talk about the things that are around the software that support the project, mostly backdropcms.org and related things around it. Let's see. Let's glaze over this this week. Update checking, that's the thing that lets it so that when a new version of a module comes out or a new version of Backdrop CMS itself comes out, update module tells you that the new version is available. That's all been working. We have a pull request to fix the analytics on backdropcms.org that will make it so that we can accurately count how many Backdrop websites are out there, at least that have update module turned on, as well as which modules are running on each site. That's pull request number 9 in project module. It's actually a bug in project module right now, but we're really close to having that fixed. Let's see. After we have that fixed, we would like to make charts of usage data on backdropcms.org and start expanding that data that we collect to be more than just the modules that are enabled, but also include things like which features are being in use. Maybe things like how many layouts people have on a site or which layout templates they're using, whether or not their site supports clean URLs, that sort of thing. That will help us make better decisions in the future about which features to keep and which ones to scrap. Drush for Backdrop. We've had a working prototype of Drush. It's a Drush extension that you can plop into your Drush 8 installation, and it will make it so that Drush can identify Backdrop and use some basic commands like drush cc all and drush updb and things like that. And there is currently a pull request. Serendipity, Jeff, thanks for taking a look at Drush this past week. He's got Drush DL working for Backdrop, and he's filed a pull request against that to this Sandbox Drush extension. The Sandbox right now is currently just located at github.com/quicksketch/backdrop-drush. And that's, for now, where we're holding on to things, although really we should probably move that into the contrib group in the near future. It looks like, okay, yeah, that's it. So that's exciting. Jeff, thanks for taking a look into that. That's great to see that those commands expanded and more Drush support coming into Backdrop. Let's see, GitHub automation. We've got some ideas about how we can better integrate backdropcms.org and GitHub, or even just between GitHub repositories. And we have a tag for that on GitHub that is called GitHub automation, and it's in the backdropcms.org issue queue. Jen, we attach these meeting notes to every video now, don't we? Sorry, I sprung that on you unexpectedly.
Yeah. So when I create the Google Hangout, I put the link in there. And so I don't know if that goes over to YouTube or not. It should, but we can check. Okay. I think it does.
Just some of these URLs get pretty verbose. Okay, well, anyway, you can find out more about that on the GitHub backdropcms.org issue queue. Let's see. And there's a bunch of new stuff with the website, including the login, but there's also new functionality. Jen, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So we have a news page, which is currently at backdropcms.org/news, which is new since last meeting. There's been a bunch of flurry in the backdropcms.org issue queue about how to build the news page, but since we don't have any news yet, I didn't want to go too crazy with dividing all of our content up into different types of content and organizing it, since we don't have anything to organize. So what I did is I created just a standard blog page, which will put all of our blog posts on the left-hand side, and then I set up what are they called, playlists in YouTube that group all of our videos together. So those are automatically coming in from YouTube instead of us having to create a post on backdropcms.org after every meeting to get the meeting videos up. So I divided them into the development meetings, which is this meeting that happens every week, and the design meetings, which are every other week. So there's a feed of both of those. And then I also just dropped in a little Twitter feed because that right now is where we're doing all of our announcements. So then we don't have to have an announcement content type that's different than the blog post. And if we have a really big announcement, it'll be both on Twitter and in the blog. So I think that that'll do for now. And as we start creating blog posts and start getting more content that's divisible by category, we can start to break that up in the future if we need more ways to organize content. So we do have one blog post written and ready, and it will be published tomorrow. And I did a little bit of research to figure out like what day of the week is best to publish a blog post. I think I wrote it on Tuesday, and I was like, I should publish it now. But apparently, people who are really busy at work on Tuesdays, so you shouldn't publish blog posts on Tuesdays. But if you publish a blog near the weekend, people will spend time over the weekend reading it because they feel less cramped with work. So what I thought we would do is publish it on Friday, and if we publish it on Friday in California, then people who are tired of working all week and want to go home early might read it on Friday, and people will start tweeting about it and talking about it over the weekend. So it seemed to be a good recipe for engagement on the blog. And then if we need to send a newsletter, those are usually in conjunction with blog posts. Those are better earlier in the week because people are in their email as opposed to on the weekend when they're not. So I figured we could do the blog post first and then follow it up with a newsletter as kind of our regular routine for getting people to know all the things that we're trying to tell them. So first blog post will go out on Friday. We aren't going to send a newsletter this week because we have a new release of Backdrop coming out in 2 weeks. So yeah, I think we have a pretty good handle on the upcoming blog schedule as well. I created an issue specifically for content on the website, and I've got a bunch of stuff up through March 4th that goes every other week. I left some holes in there so that if anyone has any content that they want to post on our blog, stories they want to tell, showcases, examples, whatever it is, we can stick them in those off weeks. And so that way we can have, kind of an official feed of stuff on the schedule, and then, oh, this is really cool, we should talk about this, and just stick it in wherever we need to. So hopefully that'll keep a lot of activity and momentum going with upcoming blog posts. So if anyone has an idea about things you want to put on our blog, you can add a comment to that issue. I'm not sure how long we'll be able to deal with one issue for the entire blog schedule, but we'll do it as long as it's manageable. Add a comment if you have something you want to add, and we'll get you into the rotation on the schedule. Let's see. User account creation. This I was also thinking, I was like, well, now that people can log in, maybe we should let them comment on the blog. But then I got worried about like having to have people watch the comments and make sure there's any spam, and then answer the comments if there's questions, and it just seems like maybe we're not quite ready for that yet. We just started the blog. Maybe we shouldn't overextend ourselves, especially with Backdrop coming out next week. I don't want to, maybe one thing at a time. We'll do the new release of Backdrop first. We'll see how the blog's going, and we can turn on comments later. We can make a bunch of noise about it, write a blog post about how we want comments, whatever. We'll make it happen in the future. So the user accounts, again, you could just sign up and create a profile page. We did do some cool stuff with the profile page where you can add your own banner image on it, which I think will be fun. Lets everyone get a little bit of their own personality on there. So if you don't have a page yet, go ahead and edit it. We did a little cleanup of the front-end theme so that you can see tabs. We first launched it, and I had removed all of the tabs because they were ugly, and then I realized that nobody could edit their user pages. I was like, oh, we need those. I just need to make them not ugly. So I put them back, I styled them, and now everyone can edit their pages. So that's good. And then we also had a little snafu with emails that people were getting to log into the site getting caught in spam filters. So I did like a crash course. Oh, thank goodness Andy mostly ported this SMTP module. I'll just shove that on the website and get it going. So thank you, Andy, for getting all of that done. And the thing I wanted to point out with the modules page is that the SMTP module appeared there. So that is thanks mostly to Andy and then also to Backdrop trying to get people to log in. So that was great. All right, so coming up in the future for our website, we're going to try and get single sign-on working. So those of us who do have accounts on GitHub and we're using GitHub for taking care of projects, will be able to link your GitHub account and your Backdrop CMS account, and that will let us do things like you can edit your own project pages on the backdropcms.org website. Also, it'll prevent people who already have GitHub's accounts from having to create a separate account when they can just say, oh, I want to sign in with GitHub. And we'll pull over whatever information we can, which isn't much, from GitHub. Maybe we can get a name and populate those fields on the Backdrop site. Next on our list in terms of new features for the Backdrop website is to add a showcase. And this is because it's hard to sell Backdrop without working examples of Backdrop. Like people go, oh, well, what sites are using it now? And you're like, well, let's see, there's my wedding website, and my friend has a blog, and it's just not really very compelling. But if we had a list of all of the websites that people are currently working on now or have recently launched, then we could say, here's a list of all the sites, you can go and check them out. It's worked really well for Drupal. They've got a showcase site, and I would love to get the same thing going for Backdrop. So what we'll probably do is set that up. It's going to need a little design process to make sure we get the whole slideshow thing working smoothly. But that's next on our horizon for what you can do with your Backdrop user account. Longer term, we also want to add service provider listings, or contractors. Anyone who's working on Backdrop or around Backdrop should be able to list themselves or their company so that they can be found. We want to add an event calendar, so anyone who's doing a Backdrop-friendly event can post their own events in the calendar instead of having to email us and say, please add this to your Google Calendar. And we want to add jobs. That's something that's been really handy for Drupal of recent, is just to be able to post a job or post that you're looking for a job to connect employers with employees. We've also got a bunch of features that we have launched on the site recently that need follow-ups. Modules, themes, and layouts are getting a little better. Thank you for Jeff for fixing this search on the modules page. It used to only search one word at a time, which is a little frustrating, and I think it only searched, I don't know if it only searched title or something, but you fix that, so now when you run a search, it'll search title and body for as many words as you put in there, and it feels better already, so that's great. And also, Jim Birch added some Google SEO stuff on there, which I launched instantly, and then I realized that it broke some stuff, so I took it off. But I didn't want to thank him for his effort for getting that on there, and we'll revisit that and try and get tracking on there, and that'll give us a hint as to what people are searching for. We were trying to track their search terms, which I thought would have been really handy to try and figure out, oh, you know, everybody wants rules, let's get rules on there, whatever it is. So that'll be fantastic once we can get that done. Let's see, I already talked about the blog schedule in announcing that we had a blog. Upcoming other news and announcements, we want to try and help get the word about Backdrop out in places that are not to our normal community. So we're going to try and work with the Civi CRM team about doing some kind of joint announcements about Backdrop and Civi working together, having them do some blog on our site, maybe us do one on their site, or announcements to our newsletter mailing lists together, something like that. So we've got some irons in the fire about trying to figure out a good way to consolidate marketing around that, which will be great. I was also thinking, a year ago, we did a bunch of podcast stuff that was like, you know, we did a bunch of podcasts when we announced that we were forking Backdrop, and then nobody believed that it would happen. And then we launched it, and everybody's like, wait, what? That worked? And then we did a whole bunch of follow-up podcasts where we're like, Backdrop's out, it's ready. And everyone was so excited and I don't know, surprised that it made it. I think it would be great to do a 1 year later and talk about all of the fantastic things that we accomplished in the first year and what it looks like for us in the future, to just kind of be like, hey, you know, you guys didn't think we made it, but in fact, we've more than made it. It's awesome. We've got this great contributor community. We've got these people doing these fantastic things. We've got sites running it. We've got success stories. We've got, you know, a whole bunch of great things in the works for 2016 as well. So I think it would be great to do that again, just to kind of get back to all of those people we've talked to before and see if they're interested in finding out what's going on. So I'll reach out to those people maybe by email and see if we want to set anything up. And I'd love to get people on the podcast who aren't just Nate and myself as well. So if any of you are interested in joining in and answering questions about what it's like working on Backdraft, let me know, because I think that would be fun. Let's see. We also have a tag in the issue queue for backdropcms.org for all tasks that are related to marketing. I took a bunch of them off of today's agenda because we have a bunch of other stuff to talk about. But if you're interested in helping us with marketing, we definitely need that. There's been a ton of flurry of activity around that lately, so thank you everybody who's already gotten involved. But we definitely still have a lot of work to do. So thank you for everybody who knows about marketing, teaching these silly developers what to do. All right, so Backdraft CMS, the project itself, has had a ton of fantastic stuff going on in the last few weeks. I don't know, Nate, if you want me to turn this back over to you.
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
All right, you put exclamation points in the agenda, so.
Okay, yeah, it's exciting. Okay, so first item of note is that Backdrop 1.2.3 came out yesterday, which is really exciting. Backdrop 1.2.3. And the exciting thing about Backdrop 1.2.3 is that it has full PHP 7 support. So we fixed a couple of issues there, particularly in views that it was using some deprecated APIs, and now Backdrop is fully working and passing all tests on PHP 7. And so if you're interested in giving PHP 7 a shot, you can do so with the latest version of Backdrop that came out yesterday. We have some small issues for the next bug fix release, that's Backdrop 1.2.4. Historically, what we've done when we have a new minor release like 1.3 that's coming out in just over a week, next Friday, what we'll do is we'll cut the last release of the previous minor version the same day. So 1.2.4 will come out next Friday with whatever bug fixes we complete before then. In particular, there's some backports from Drupal 7.40 that haven't been ported over, but we've had some progress starting on those. If those move forward, then we'll get those merged into the 1.2 branch, but if they don't make it, then they'll just start getting merged into the 1.3 branch after the release next week. So let's see. Let's talk about 1.3, which is coming out January 15th. It's supposedly the UX release, which means that we've been doing a whole bunch of work on user experience. I shouldn't say supposedly. We've got a lot of great stuff in here. Probably, oh man, there's just so many things. Okay. So layout follow-ups. We've been trying to make it so that layout module has more kind of smooth and tightly integrated pieces with the rest of Backdrop. One thing that happened this past week was that thanks to Mike McCaffrey, we moved blocks into configuration. So the block custom table has now been moved into block configuration files. And we went back and forth on that issue a couple of times, but it turns out we saw the light and saw exactly what kind of benefit that was going to be providing us, that we have other follow-up issues that make it so that you can create a custom text block from within the Layouts UI directly, and combined with this change makes it so that we can add a little checkbox for reusable configuration, or reusable block, and then it will just leverage the existing blocks UI to display and manage those reusable blocks. All very exciting. There's a whole list of issues that are similar and related to this in issue 345. It's the layout follow-ups meta issue. And I'm really excited to see that happen. The things that are almost certainly going to happen before 1.3, the custom text block functionality I just talked about, making it so there's a checkbox for reusable that will integrate backwards and forwards with these new config stored blocks. Actually, they're not new. They're just the old blocks. They're just stored differently now. And the one field per block, uh, one block per field patch that will make it so you can do things like you can place the image of a node in the sidebar or in the header or in the footer or wherever you want on your node pages. Or same thing like on your user pages. You could lay out an entire profile where all of the fields are all over the page instead of just being confined to the main content area. So those are exciting. Rich text editor follow-ups is issue 1087. There's some things that we want to do to make it so that we integrate a little bit better with the filter system. We have a couple of bugs, honestly, relating to existing content and paragraph tags. Some other issues with images when they're placed in blocks. Garbage collection picks them up. A whole bunch of small issues there that we'd love to see. I think at this point, there's probably only a couple of those rich text editor follow-ups that will make it in that haven't been completed yet, but we'd love some additional effort there. Let's see, UX change, use edit and configure consistently and correctly. We had a bunch of pull requests that had been queued up and had gotten stale, but Jen re-rolled them all this past week, and almost all of them are merged in issue 771. The only one that's left is that views still has the word edit view instead of configure view. So that's the only remaining usage where edit does not refer to content and configure does not refer to configuration. So that's nice, a nice little win there for terminology consistency, that we're always editing things that are editorial related and configuring things that are stored in configuration rather than just using the two words willy-nilly all over the place. This issue, 639, would be nice if we could get it done. It's add a notification icon to core that will make it so that when there's a notification, for example, in the status report, instead of putting giant red errors all over your site, it would put a little icon in your admin bar indicating, hey, you should go and look at this item.
I didn't notice that issue wasn't tagged with 1.3, so when I went through the 1.3 queue last week, I missed it. So I changed the tag today, and I'll go take a look at it and see what needs to be done.
Okay. Let's see. Project browser. Oh boy, I haven't taken a look at this real recently, but I'm a little bit worried about this one since we only have 8 days left. But Project Browser makes it so that you can find modules from within Backdrop and install them through a browsing interface. So instead of needing to leave your site and go find a module on GitHub or on backdropcms.org, you can just say install module, and then it will list all the modules with a search box, and then you can find and install modules directly from within Backdrop. That's issue 1399. If anyone's interested in reviewing that, we definitely could use some help and assistance testing, checking to make sure it's okay, like deciding if it's complete enough and functionality works well enough to be moved into core in the next week. But that's a big chunk of functionality. I'm not sure that will make it in. If it doesn't, it's not too big a deal. It just means that it'll probably get kicked to 1.4, which will be 4 months from now. So it's not the
end. I really want to look at that one because I think that would be really huge for usability win. So if we could get that in this release, I think that would be ideal. But I haven't played with it for a while, so I don't know how close it is.
Yep. Okay. Other items. We've got a couple of listings in core that still aren't views. In particular, comments are not yet listings, and we'd like to get those converted. There are pull requests for those, I guess.
I think it's out of date. Last I looked at that, it needed a little attention.
Okay, maybe I'll mark it needs work then. Okay. So a couple of those would be great if we could get those converted. I mean, we're not really losing anything, but it would be great if we could make it so that we just had the consistency of using views everywhere we could. I had a couple of items for 1.3.0 that look like they're going to get in just because they're ready. They weren't necessarily on the target for 1.3, but they're all pretty much complete. One of them is transliteration in core is really, really close. It's actually fully functional. It's just a matter of actually reducing some of the functionality and making it make a little bit more sense in core rather than being a contrib module. That's issue 904, and it's looking really good. Jerome has been doing just a fantastic job on that. Let's see, all the way back in September, just after the last release, we came up with this performance improvement called background fetch. And background fetch prevents slow page loads if your website hasn't been loaded in the last couple of hours, like the first time page load. Instead of generating the page and then running cron and then waiting for all of those things to complete, it just uses the last good copy of the page and then does all of those things in the background. And then the next page load, it uses the fresh copy of that page. So that's a really great performance improvement for sites that don't get a lot of traffic or pages that don't frequently get visited, that they will continuously be fast and be returned right away, as well as cron not holding up the page load when it runs in the background. So that's issue 1214. It's completely done, but it needs some tests before it can be merged. Let's see, and also really exciting, responsive tabs. We have new tabs for the 7 theme in issue 671. Wes did just an amazing job with that, and I think it's going to be a really great improvement that when you move down to mobile or a smaller screen, that the tabs now collapse, and we've got a special mode when just 1 or 2 tabs can't fit. It'll turn into little dots and a little drop down for those tabs that don't fit. And when only 1 tab will fit, it drops into a fully mobile mode, which looks really great and awesome. You can take a look at that issue. There's lots of animated GIFs of it in action there. And then there's a bunch of other issues for the 1.3.0 release that are just tagged for that release. May or may not get in. It really just depends on what's done by next week, basically. If you'd like to see more stuff get into 1.3.0, the most useful thing at this point, well, besides completing some of these ones that aren't finished yet, is it would also be tremendously beneficial if we had some cross-author reviewing of these pull requests. And there's a tag a label on GitHub for PR needs review, and back to the authors, the sooner they can fix the remaining issues, and then the sooner we can get those things in.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
How many to get reviewed and tested by the community? Like if one person reviews somebody else's, is that sufficient, or do we have policy about that? Or
I think as long as, well, if any person individually feels honestly that something is ready to go in, they can mark that ready, reviewed and tested by the community. Yeah, we don't need like a large amount of consensus, because right now the activity in a lot of these issues, there's usually only 1 or 2 people looking at things, and so if we waited for like 3 or 4 people to say something, it might not ever happen. So yeah, go ahead and be bold with it, and that will kind of bump it up to the visibility, like the top of the visibility list for me to look at for merging, and then I'll give it another review, and then probably make somebody depressed, but but yes, freely mark RTBC if you feel that something is ready. Let's see. 1.4.0 is May 15th, 2016. Anything that doesn't get into 1.3, it's not a big deal. We'll just wait until May, and then those features can get into the next minor release. Other things that we're hoping to have for 1.4.0, besides the things that don't make it in this next release, The big ticket items are we would like to have a port of references module or something like references module, a generic like reference from any entity type to any other entity type solution. There's a ticket for that 1301. We would like to have something like redirect in core that functions that works in combination with path auto so that when new paths are made, new redirects are also made. And we'd love to have a new front-end theme. Oh boy, bunches of things. A couple of front-end items here. A new front-end theme and additional layouts that are out of box in core. Both of those issues are, let's see, in 1361. Is that right? That doesn't seem right. There should be a separate issue for layouts, but 13. Oh. Sorry, guys. Looks like we had a little bit of a network issue there. Can you guys hear me okay?
Welcome back.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. Thanks, Mike. Okay, let's see. That's pretty much it for summary, where we are. Sprints, we have sprints every Thursday. That's today. After the weekly meeting, you can hang out with us in IRC and Pound Backdrop. Or the primary place where we do most of our communication is in the Backdrop issue queue on GitHub. We also have a Reddit if you would like to converse there. And we've been hanging out besides IRC. We also have a gitter.im account that is associated with the Backdrop issues queue. If you want to visit gitter.im/backdrop, you can do that to join the online chat there. John, do you want to cover upcoming meetings or upcoming events?
Sure. Am I muted? No. Okay. Yeah, so let's see. We have Sand Camp, which is coming up at the end of February. That's a Drupal camp in San Diego, where it'll be hopefully sunny and warm. February 25th to 27th, we are going to have our first full-day Backdrop training. So anyone who's interested in getting training on Backdrop and wants to visit some sun in the middle of the winter, that could be a good opportunity. Drupal Camp Utah, which is the beginning of March. So if you're not so much into the sun but would like to go skiing instead, Drupal Camp Utah is having an event. They've reached out to us specifically asking for speakers on Backdrop. I'm not sure if it's too late to still get in there or not. Probably not. If you want to go to Utah and you want to talk about Backdrop, they would love to hear from you. And Drupal Camp Chicago, which is at the end of March. I'm not sure how open they are to having Backdrop talks in their agenda, but they are very friendly to Backdrop people, and they would love to have us there and talking to everyone about all of that. So if anyone is interested in attending any of those events, they are posted on our iCal feed, which you can grab from backdropcms.org/contribute, I think, or resources, I think. But if you have other events that you're hosting or you're attending or you're speaking at, and you want them to be added to our calendar, you can send an email to info@backdropcms.org, and we'll get that added to that list as well. We have a presentation for anyone who wants to talk on Backdrop that we've kind of open sourced a couple of slides. It's in the Backdrop Ops group in a contrib repository called Slides. Similarly, if anyone's giving a talk on Backdrop, we would love to have your slides as well added to that. So go ahead and submit a pull request, and we'll take a look at those and get them merged in. Again, just an announcement that we have the first ever Backdrop CMS book is available from APress. It's called Migrating from Drupal to Backdrop, and it came out, I think, on December 20th, written by Todd Tomlinson. I can't wait to have a copy on my shelves. It's very exciting. And he's also working, I think, on another full Backdrop book as well as books on Drupal 8. So that'll be interesting to see kind of the compare and contrast between the future of both projects. All right. Well, is there anything else anyone wanted to talk about? Open Q&A.
Okay. Jeff says that we should move Drush into Contrib. I totally agree, Jeff.
How do we do that with like you want to put it on backdropcms.org? It's not going to have a type.
Yeah, it doesn't have a type, exactly. This is exactly why Drush moved off of Drupal.org, in fact, and hosts directly on GitHub, is because it doesn't...
It's not a module.
Yeah, it's not a module or a theme, exactly, and so it doesn't really work. But you can, I mean, we can make a project page for it on backdropcms.org anyway as a module, the same thing Drupal.org did. I think that as long as we tag it the same way as though it were a module, it'll still show up as a package on backdropcms.org. Wait, that might not be true because of the .info files. Well, anyway, it is going to be a little bit weird, but we could manually at least make a project for it, just to give it some visibility.
Okay. I think starting off by moving it into the Contrib group is good because people search the Contrib group for it, and then we can figure out how to get it on the website later.
Yeah.
No other questions today? We had so much stuff going on. All right, well, keep your eyes open for the blog post that's going to go up tomorrow. Help us retweet, share, Facebook, Google+, whatever people do to get the word out. And, yeah, happy forging ahead for Backdrop 1.3.
Yeah.
Okay, I do actually have one question.
Okay.
So I got obviously the config block saved, but how close are we on the layout block component of that? Because I haven't had a chance to review that code.
That I think I've looked at it and it's really good. We have an ongoing issue in a lot of places where tests haven't been written for new functionality, and I think that's the largest holdup there. But the ability to add a text block from the UI is there, and to have them stored in the layout is there. But the reusable checkbox, obviously, since that block config just got in yesterday, that functionality isn't there yet. So it's pretty close, but the biggest holdup for it is tests. And then if we want to do that integration and make it reusable, then that would be something that could happen in this issue or a different one.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, anything else? Okay, back to the issue queue. Thanks, guys, for coming, and thanks, everyone, for watching.
Yay, bye, guys. Work hard. One more week. All right, bye.